Dave Pike on line 2. Just a minute, I can hear Dave honking his horn in the alley, Tim Clark says to me one afternoon while we're talking on the phone. Tim never comes back to the phone, and the next day I ask him what had happened. Dave Pike is a fellow snake enthusiast who sometimes takes me and Tim snake hunting on the California deserts. Dave is a couple of years older than me and Tim and has his own pickup truck. Dave graduated from high school and now works in the family furniture store in Rosemead. On our trips to the desert, we learned that he is a diabetic. Dave explains that because of his affliction, he has to urinate frequently. To eliminate frequent urination stops, he attaches a funnel to the steering column of his truck. A plastic tube leads down from the tunnel and through a hole in the floorboard of the truck. Because of this ingenious device, we don't have to stop when Dave needs to pee, although someone has to hold the steering wheel. It's what friends are for. The day after our interrupted phone call, Tim relates the following story. Tim and I do not keep venomous snakes, but Dave keeps a couple of sidewinders, small desert rattlesnakes, in his bedroom. On the afternoon in question, Dave is cleaning his snake cages and in the process uses his snake stick to transfer a sidewinder from one cage to another. The uncooperative sidewinder jumps off the snake stick and refuses on subsequent attempts to be picked up with a snake stick. Dave decides to pin the snake to the floor and pick it up so that he can drop it into the new cage. During this maneuver, he makes a crucial error. Instead of holding the sides of the snake's neck with his thumb and middle finger, Dave holds his thumb under the snake's lower jaw with his index and middle finger on either side of the neck. Seizing this opportunity, the snake moves one of his lower jaws to the side and stabs the end of Dave's thumb with a fang. Shocked by this turn of events, Dave drops the snake to the floor, but is so flustered that instead of lifting it up with his snake hook, he pins it again and picks it up and drops it into the new cage. Dave sees a fang mark on the end of his thumb, and the bite is painful. Alone in the house, he decides to make an incision over the penetration point so they can suck out the venom. He retrieves a razor blade from the bathroom and makes 2 incisions, forming an X over the wound. But then, thinking that more access to the venom might be even better, he makes another pair of incisions. The end of his thumb is now a 6-pointed star and bleeding ferociously. Sucking on his thumb, Dave calls Tim to ask him to drive him to the hospital. Finding the line busy, Tim is talking to me, Dave jumps in his truck and drives over to Tim's house and honks the horn until Tim comes out to ask what's going on. 30 minutes later, Tim pulls into Los Angeles County Hospital with a snake bite victim. Finley E. Russell, MD, is the reason for going to this particular hospital. Russell is a leading expert on snake venoms and has been buying rattlesnakes from Dave and Tim for years. Russell immediately asks if the sidewinder was from the upper or lower desert. We know that these are the haunts of 2 different subspecies of sidewinder. Described by Lawrence Klauber, the lower desert subspecies, Lateropens, differs in minor details of scalation and coloration from the form on the upper desert. But Russell knows that it also has a different venom. The subspecies from the lower desert, which stabbed Dave, has such a mild venom, Russell reports, that Dave might as well have stayed home. The self-inflicted incisions on Dave's thumb are what concerns Russell, because they may have caused permanent nerve damage. Russell disinfects and wraps the thumb and sends Dave home. I remember my impression the first time I picked up a rattlesnake by grasping its neck and head with my fingers. The head of a rattlesnake is delicate and pliable. When you grab the snake, your fingers sink into the scale-clevered flesh of the neck and head. Natural selection has shaped the head so that it accommodates a complicated set of levers that enables the snake to erect its fangs. Once the snake contacts the prey with these fangs, the snake bites down, shoots venom through the fangs into the prey, and then quickly releases the prey and pulls back away from it. The head is designed for this rapid mode of venom delivery, not for holding on and withstanding the counterattack of the prey. A few weeks later, Dave stops by my house to pick me up for a weekend trip to the desert with Tim. My dad is working in the garage, so I invite him over to meet Dave. I have already told him about Dave's rattlesnake accident. Dave unwraps his thumb to show it to Dick. The thumb looks like a radish that has been decoratively carved for a cocktail platter. Dave is proud of his thumb, which has begun to regain sensation. Dave is fully recovered from the shock of the snake bite, and his thumb is now a conversation piece. In the aftermath of Dave's accident, Tim and I discuss the circumstances of the bite and agree on its causes. In the first place, Dave should have had tongs on hand as an alternative to using his snake stick. Secondly, the peculiar grip that Dave used on the snake had set him up for the fang stab. The lesson, as we saw it, was to stay cool and pay attention when you grab the snake with your fingers. It did not occur to us that picking up rattlesnakes was so inherently complicated and dangerous that unexpected events can intervene with bad consequences. But shit happens, especially when handling venomous snakes. A few years later, I learned this more subtle lesson.